want or prefer uh, bigger D, in other words, the dick size alpha guy, we're gonna break that down, make a comparison of what men want, and this is intended to provide a sense of reality as to what is going on in the woman's mind and what kind of approach they have to life itself. So, first of all, it seems to me like people in general, unless they are using religion as a frame, or they're trying to be loving and they're trying to be of the spirit of caring for each other, not wanting to seduce one another's future brothers and sisters, wives, and when I say that, I'm referring to all of humanity, like not wanting to seduce other people's wives, because instead you want to, or future husbands, because you instead want to live in a loving world where people they can rely on each other to protect one another's future wives and daughters and husbands and everything. And there's a sense of where it's not an animal sense of things. And so, like, looking at a lot of this is going to highlight the irrationality of which women approach things, and why, if I were a woman, I would want to have a man help me to make the right choices as to how I'm moving, how I'm going about things. Okay, so starting with this concept of, like, let's really look at it technically. So, do women want, like, the maximum amount of stimulation within their vagina during intercourse? And the answer to that is perhaps. But can every man achieve that? No, because women's inner vagina sizes are larger than most men's penis sizes, and because, in part, perhaps because it's meant to accommodate a growing child, but it's kind of like, how much pleasure do you want is really the question. And yes, women can play with toys, and their husbands as well can stimulate them with toys inside their quote-unquote larger interior vagina. But within the expectations of my religion, it's not really my religion, even though it's like my idea. It's more about that it's the religion I practice. It's Goddess V. And to worship Goddess V, you need to make things in life more about clitoris and the labia, the vulva, rather than making it about other aspects of sexuality, men's genitals, women's breasts, and so on. And so, keeping that in mind, however, it's like I was saying, like, how much pleasure does a person want? Like, how much? and what's also important is the idea that as men, we don't want, if men are being honest, we don't want a woman most men don't want a woman who has experience, quote unquote, and has been with lots of men or is with lots of men. A lot of people make that mistake of not realizing that even if you're a quote unquote, more attractive guy, alpha guy, and you're supposedly, I'm not saying that I don't want people, like, if you have, as a man, if you have an attractive body and, you want to be with a woman, I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't. And I'm entertained by, the pornography of men with larger size PPS. I'm entertained by them, engaging in sexual activities with their wife. So this isn't to deny, the visual entertainment of it and a desire to, have fun as human beings, because we should want to be playful. We should want to make the most of our human experience. That's why I think more couples could film adult entertainment, and we should make it more about humans, like make life more about humans, rather than making like people may think I'm objectifying women by saying, oh yeah, it's all about vulva and it's like a flower, but what else are we supposed to do as human beings? Okay, so again, every man can only have one wife, generally speaking. So that's why, in theory, we shouldn't have to worry about, say, a woman having had previous sexual partners that had a larger PPS. That's like a man worrying about it's like a woman worrying about whether a man's been with, other women that had a smaller internal vagina, VVS, and it's simply this. The design for pleasure should be to please someone because you care about them, not because you're out there trying to seek pleasure. Okay, and then this idea of this alpha character, like, we all have a sense about what seems to be ideal genetics, but the genetic should be a result of a loving relationship and a marriage. And see, part of the problem is if we look into women's what they do, like, you know how women go like crazy at a concert and they get obsessed over these male characters, and the funny thing is some of them aren't masculine men, like the type of men who, you know, do those, a lot of that singing. It's more of a feminine style of singing, but regardless, women get into that. Like for example, Drake may seem like he's an alpha male character, but because he's a, you know, tall, you know, healthy guy, but he, you know, the way he sings and whatnot, to me is like a feminine thing. It's like I would never do that. And so and just the same, it seems like women are more interested in general about having fun, and obviously that would include perhaps the seeking of sexual variety, or trying to attract the most attractive guy that they could. But are they trying to find somebody who would take good care of the child, or are they somehow forcing society to have to take care of that child, is part of the question. And so yeah, it's my challenge to you. It's like, what, you know, forgetting what women want and looking at the level of, you know, what does your wife want, or what do you want? You know, if you want, I think one thing even quote unquote alpha men will do is they'll kind of select a woman only because the woman like selected him. But that's actually a feminine angle. Like, you should be selecting a woman because she has the same values as you do. And it's like it should always be about the woman entering your frame. And again, it's not about having to have the largest PPS and just because that's more about sexual dominance, and that's more about wanting power from someone and to feel empowered. You shouldn't need that from the sexual intercourse. Your power should come from your devotion and your commitment to Goddess V, which in part reveals itself as a worship of as oral sex on your wife. So if you make it more about that, then you're not going to be worried about the size of your PPS relative to other men's, and you're not going to be, and you know, your wife's not going to be worried about her size of her breasts or TTS as compared with other women. But it's a that's why it's a transcendence of all that. So for example, if a woman were to make man were to make some type of PPS reference, all I say is, my God is Goddess V, or Goddess, I worship Goddess V, which is vulva, and so even if I had no PPS, it wouldn't, all that matters is, Goddess V, and that's the meaning of life. It's the most attractive thing in the world. And so it's not an objectification of women, it's actually focusing on women as being the most attractive object. And that's how we create a peaceful society, by making it more about human beings and not so much about try to seek the most pleasure. In fact, as a man, your life shouldn't be about pleasure. It should be about wanting peace. It's a different sensation. The whole pleasure thing is like this quiet desperation and this kind of sexual tension and this anxiousness of like, oh yeah, I want to, find the most attractive woman I can, to, oh, I want to find a woman who has the same core values as me. Yes, you should be attracted to her vulva. Yes, you should want to, if you want to have children with her, you should think that she has good enough genetics to, like somebody maybe are going to be helpful for procreation and for the well-being of the mother and child. Like if there are potential illnesses in yourself or genetic issues in yourself or the mother, it may be best to not have children, even if you are together. But okay, so moving forward, so there are different, they're called Jelkin exercises to increase the size of the PPS. Now forget all the pills and all that, because that's like, it's like using caffeine or what are they called, steroids. It ultimately affects you negatively, because of course stuff has an effect, or a side effect. That's the way it is. So again, this is like, you need to see this all from a God consciousness, because it can be tempting to want to be like an quote unquote alpha guy, even though he's not really alpha, if he's not focusing on his wife, and maybe he has a larger PPS, and that is able to stimulate women more than most guys, and so that allows him to attract more women. But that like, would you want the type of woman that was basing things off of that? That's like whatever, basing something on whether somebody has larger breasts or a tighter vagina, whatever it may be, but it's not worshiping goddess vulva. In fact, I like a larger clitoris and labia. I think it's more, but I also like it of a woman of a certain skin color, like more brown skin, and so I think men should, and with that clarity, I think you'll be able to live a better life. When you really know what kind of, when you look at a woman and you're first gauging, like, I wonder if I would want to give her oral sex. Like, that's how you really get to know yourself and whether a woman's a good compatible with you, because you should be more concerned about giving her oral sex as opposed to anything else, because the rest is like an animal. It's like all it's about is getting off or wanting to be this man that dominates a woman, but that's not the highest consciousness that we can be at. So with that in mind, I'm gonna say bidding well, and I hope to talk more soon with you guys on this. So I'm gonna say aloha and talk soon. Take care.